You're muted. Komal Mataji, would you like to?
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadhantikam. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gauri Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Please start reading chapter 5. Lord Rishabhadev instructs his sons.
Okay. Lord Rishabh instructs his son. Rishabh sat cross-legged on a raised seat, surrounded by his sons, numerous sages, and thousands of citizens, all eager to hear him speak. He addressed his son, "My dear boys, one who has received human body should not act like animal and engaged only in sensual enjoyment. One should control the senses, engaging them in Krishna's service, even though controlling bodily and mental urge means suffering. We should voluntarily embrace this discomfort. By so doing, our hearts will become purified and we will attain our eternal blissful life, which is far superior to material happiness."
Okay, so pause. That's a bit of a heavy statement, right? Like sometime when we act a little bit materialistically, we remember that we should not act like animals and only engage in sense enjoyment. Do some austerity, right? In fact, we remember that the Vrishabhadev, there's that verse. Tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam shuddhed yasmat brahma saukyam tvanantam. How he instructs his sons to do tapasya and not to live like animals and to attain higher levels of happiness, we need to do tapasya. That's the point of Rishabhadev here. And this point of what happens when we enjoy in sensual enjoyment, eating nicely, whatever it is, oversleeping, spacing out, entertainment, what is happening is we are essentially finishing our good karma. There is some amount of good karma and we are finishing it off. And I see, especially as an astrologer, I see a lot of people coming to me and saying, "My life was so nice until last year. I don't know what happened to me. Now I lost my money, I lost this and that, and I lost friends. Something is happening. What's happening planetarily?" Many times, the reason is not just a planetary shift. If you look at the lifestyle of a person, it's rare that austerities or difficulties come as a mercy type. It's usually because they finish their good credits. It's like they finish their money in the bank. Now, of course, the bank is coming after your car and home and whatnot because we have utilized it just to live off it. So instead, even materialistically, I'm saying even materialistic people, those you see who are successful and all, they are into not they don't do sense gratification. They use whatever little good karma they have, whatever they may have, the time they may have at hand, the health they may have at hand, the money that they may have, the influence that they may have, they'll invest in it to get more. And that's why they work harder, they work longer hours, this, that. And so, but the problem with that is that their goal is still gratification. They still want sensual enjoyment. They want bigger house and bigger this and that. So the purpose is not very wise. But at the same time, sometimes there is a risk for devotees to become complacent. Anyway, we should not do this and that. So we become complacent and we do not invest that energies into performing tapodivyam. Tapodivyam, here Rishabhadev says tapodivyam, which means it's not just normal austerity that other people do. Tapodivyam, like now, you're here for this Bhagavatam. So many people now, they're chanting at this time. So that's tapodivyam. Engaging in divine austerity, something that awakens the soul, something that nourishes the soul. So even materialistically, to achieve something, we need to work hard. So naturally, also spiritually, we need to put effort. But remember, the soul of spiritual austerity is bhakti. The love that we express to Krishna, not so much about if you do more. It's not about action based austerity alone that gives result. We need that intention based austerity also, the intention to give up anger, the intention to give up guilt and shame, the intention to give up revengeful attitude, intention to put away, how do you say, take myself off the center. Those austerities are very pleasing to the Lord. To not jump into taking credit, to be humble, to give praise where it's due, to not be jealous. Krishna speaks about the austerities in the modes in Bhagavad Gita. So we can do austerity in the mode of passion to get something in return. We can do austerity in the mode of tamas guna because we have some dysfunctional trauma from childhood and some previous life baggage. So we torture ourselves, do too many fastings, dress too austerely, do things which are not beneficial for us also and others also. It only like destroys our health or destroys our sense of self-confidence or whatever. So that's an austerity in the mode of tamas guna. So very important that not just austerity important. It's austerity in the mode of goodness. For some of us, maybe it's easier to do austerity in the mode of passion. Oh, I can get this, then you do austerity. For some of us, maybe it's easier to do austerity in the mode of tamas guna, because we are accustomed to it. Rajas and tamas, there is a sort of a pleasure in it. Yes, also in tamas, there is a sort of pleasure. That feeling of victim or feeling, oh, poor me. Even there is some sort of tamasic pleasure in it. So here he is speaking of completely sattvic and shuddha sattva, controlling bodily and mental urges, through some suffering. And mental urges could mean, avoiding studying Gita or Bhagavatam and just watching some entertainment or something, right? Controlling that urge and saying, no, I want to invest my thinking in Bhagavatam. And by doing so, our hearts will become purified. Shuddhyed yasmat brahma saukyam fanantam. And we will attain eternal blissful life, which is far superior to material happiness. So beautiful. So this is exactly the translation of that particular verse. I love that verse so much. Okay, any comments, any realizations? Otherwise, we can continue. Please continue, Trikaya.
Yeah. Bharata, who sat close to Rishabh, said, Father, how should we serve Krishna and attain liberation? One must serve advanced spiritual personalities and give up the association of those fond of sex. Please tell us how we can recognize a person advanced in spiritual realization? Asked Bharat. Rishabh said, such great souls are equally disposed to all, seeing no difference between one living entity and another. They are peaceful and always practice devotional service. Some of them serve Krishna, wanting to merge into his spiritual energy, and others desires his personal association. Either way, they are free of anger and they work for everyone's benefit. They never act contrary to spiritual injunctions. Anyone who wants to advance in spiritual life must also stop mingling with materialists absorbed in the animalistic activities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and give up attachment for home, wife, children, friends, and wealth. Bharata understood his father, but looking out at the many citizens listening, some may misunderstand. He said, Father, when you say give up our attachment to our families and friends, do you mean we should abandon them and treat them unkindly? No, my son. I mean, do not see them as meant for your enjoyment. An aspiring transcendentalist honors his duties and takes care of his family, but but he only collects enough money to meet the family's basic needs. He is not materially ambitious. If you think sense gratification is life's core, you'll become increasingly deluded and degraded by sinful activities. We suffer in this body because of sins performed in previous.
Okay, pause here for a second. See, we may say, oh, how can I avoid materialistic association? I have to go to college, I have to go to work, I have. So this again, the principle again applies here. Remember, Priyavrata didn't want to become the king for the very same reasons that he would have to deal with so many materialistic duties and everything. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was told by his Guru Maharaj, don't go to Kolkata. But the point is, that's why even more the reason, because we are living in this world where we have to study, we have to get jobs, we have to survive. The more the reason we need to protect ourselves and shield ourselves with spiritual nourishment and programs and chanting and all these things that we're doing, Gita, Bhagavatam, Vishnu Sahasranam, all these things are our shields, so that when we walk into this world to get our whatever materialistic duties done, we are untouched by the contaminations of this world. And also, very important thing, austerity again, like what did he say? He giving up attachment. Does it mean that in the mode of tamas guna, treating everybody in our lives very badly? And like, oh, my spiritual life, don't disturb me, mother, coming and asking me about my day. I'm chanting or reading, whatever it is. Like we mistreat people in our family who are trying to help us. So not in that mood. That's again tamas guna detachment. We can be detached in sattva and rajas and in tamas. And sattva guna detachment, it looks a little bit like tamas guna, but it's not. It's very the intention of sattva guna detachment is benefit of everybody, thinking of others also, not only thinking of my comfort. So it's a thin line what detachment means. Sometimes we may just be lazy. Remember Trikaya, we discussed that point about drawing a line between detachment and laziness. Sometimes we don't want to take care of our body, or they don't want to take care of certain things. And we may say, oh, these things are material, I don't want to do something. I mean, we can do that in tamas guna also. Not iron our clothes or not wash our clothes, or not invest into grooming ourselves nicely out of maybe laziness. And we may say, no, it's actually a Krishna conscious thing. There's a lot of things we can justify as spiritual, which may just be material conditioning. Sometimes Indians, we have that more, unfortunately. We get into this externals, thinking that it's spiritual, how we, whatever it is, how we dress or how we eat or what we do. We think we are more spiritual than others because we are doing it in a specific way. So all these things are nuances of Krishna consciousness we need to be aware of and not do some mistake, not be in the mode of rajas and tamas.
Equipoised. Samatvam.
Yeah. Very. Anybody has any comments? Welcome, Vilas Manjari. Maybe she has some comments about austerity in the mode of tamas and rajas, or detachment in the mode of rajas and tamas. She's very good with Gita. She studied a lot. I always get so much research and information and inspiration. So any Gita point, any verse you remember, Vilas Manjari, that is applicable in appropriate detachment and appropriate ways of avoiding sense gratification?
I was having like equipoised, Samatvam, yoga, yoga muchite, something like that. We are reading.
Balance, right? Like
Balance.
Yes. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Austerity of mind is satisfaction, that I remember.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
right.
you. Yes.
In ignorance, the heart is not involved. Inactivity.
Whoa. Heart is not involved, mind is not satisfied, and inactivity. See, this is Trikaya, that discussion of ours, this is a good, some conclusion of it. It should be like, yeah. Satisfied. The mind should be satisfied if we're doing that. Which means a lot of things. When you look at other people dressed up and all, you should feel at peace. Like that. Anyway, me and Trikaya had a discussion about dressing up, how much is too much and how much grooming is essential, and what does it mean to take care of the body without engaging in sensual or self-gratification path. Good. Okay. Who likes to read next? Vilas Manjari, would you like to read if you're able to? Otherwise, Komal Mataji can read.
Just need to grab my glasses.
Sorry?
Yeah, I'll just grab my glasses. Yeah, from where? Is the solution to avoid?
Here, this pure spirit soul does not require.
The pure spirit soul does not require a miserable material body. We are here because we desire to enjoy sense gratification. Therefore, an intelligent man will not continue with this madness by which he must accept birth and death. Is the solution to avoid sin and act dutifully? Is the solution to avoid sin and act dutifully? Asked Bharata. Rishabha waved a finger. My dear son, mere duty is not the answer. Both pious and impious work have karmic reactions. For as long as we desire to enjoy independently of Krishna, we cannot realize our spiritual nature, but will continue in the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, pious work is not the answer. We must first ask life's most important questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Why do I suffer? Who created everything? What is my relationship with the Creator? Only human life gives us the opportunity to seek.
Thank you. See, this is the point. Mere duty is not the answer. Both pious and impious have karmic reactions. And the point is, yesterday me and Vilas Manjari were discussing in our other meeting that the will of the Lord, that's the only sanity and the peace and the happiness. Everything else is binding. Only that ability and the willingness to say, Krishna, your will and not mine be done. That's the actual actual independence also. Because when we try to enjoy independently, we read yesterday in that text that we mess up more in our life and we try to fix things independently. So very good points here. Thank you. And Komal Mataji, would you like to continue reading, because Virasmanjali needs to go?
Answers to these questions. If we do not, our minds will remain absorbed in material work and we will continue to suffer. Bharata said, how did the pure spirit soul become absorbed in material work in the first place? Rishabha said, desiring material enjoyment, the pure soul falls into ignorance. He forgets his spiritual nature and his relationship with the Supreme Lord and becomes obsessed with the results of his work. This tendency does not stop until he revives his original love for Krishna. Until that time, the bewildered soul continues in the cycle of birth and death. Seeking answers to spiritual questions liberates us from suffering? Asked Bharata. No, this is just the beginning. If one is immature in either transcendental knowledge or attraction for Krishna, sensual pleasure.
Oof. I was like, oh, this is the point that seeking answers to spiritual questions liberate us from suffering. I thought Rishabhadev will say, yes. And he was like, no, it's just the beginning. This is so important. This is just the beginning. We are just at the beginning. Okay, please continue. If one is immature in either transcendental knowledge or attraction for Krishna, sensual pleasure will attract him for God.
Sex life. This madness will oblige him to accept all kinds of misery, exactly like a foolish animal. Liberation comes at the mature stage of transcendental knowledge mixed with devotional service, when one sees the futility of material enjoyment. Rishabha looked around his audience and then back toward Bharata and his brothers. My dear sons, know that the attraction between man and woman is the strongest bond tying one to material life. It expands into attachment for home, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions, thinking in terms of I and mine. Bharata thought of his mother. Is one's wife always the cause of bondage? He asked. Rishabha smiled. Not if husband and wife assist each other to perform devotional service. Then she helps in attaining spiritual realization and liberation. Sadly, most couples simply engage in sense gratification, forgetting their relationship with Krishna. You see, my sons, because of materialistic activities in many past lives, the attraction for sensual enjoyment is very strong. Until it substantially reduces, one cannot give up attachment for material life. However, if we become detached from worldly enjoyment, we will get free from the bodily concept of life. When you realize you're not this body but the eternal servant of Krishna, and that you do and own nothing, and all the ability and gains belong to Krishna, then you are liberated and can return to the spiritual world. Bharata said, since we have tied the knots of illusion over many lifetimes, how is it possible to slacken them and attain liberation? You must accept a highly elevated spiritual master, a Paramhansa, who can teach you how to develop love for Krishna. Enquire from him submissively and serve him. By following his directions, you will come to detest worldly enjoyment and learn to tolerate the dualities of pleasure and pain, which come and go like the seasons. My dear boys, please understand, life in the material world is miserable, even for the celestials. Therefore, give up all desire to go to the heavens. Perform penance and austerity with a desire to attain loving service to Krishna. Bharata said, how difficult are the required austerities and penances? Not at all difficult. One need only associate with devotees and engage in discussions about Krishna. Do not hear passively. You must also repeat what you hear and glorify Krishna. In time, you will come to see everyone as equal parts of Krishna and give up enmity, anger, and lamentation. Dear boys, you are not your material bodies and should not waste time associating with materialists. Spend your time reading the revealed scriptures. Keep faith in the Vedas. You must also control the sex urge. Remain diligent in performing your worldly duties and refrain from frivolous talk such as gossip. Learn about Krishna from those who know him and always think of him. If you patiently and enthusiastically engage in these simple practices of Bhakti Yoga, you will in due course attain transcendental knowledge and become free of the false ego of bodily identification. My dear sons, Carefully executing my instructions will purify you of ignorance, the inclination to act materially, and attachment to material relationships. To make further advancement, you must then give up your desire for liberation. Bharata said, then what should be our goal? Rishabha said, the chief aim and highest benediction of life is to attain Krishna's personal association. This is only possible when Krishna is pleased and gives his mercy. My dear boys, you must teach your dependents this essential truth. Foolish people will only aspire for material gain or liberation, both of which are selfish goals. A king, a father, and a spiritual master should not mislead their dependents towards these aims. This is exactly like leading a blind man into a well. Rather, teach them how to always please Krishna. Bharata said, Father, kindly explain your analogy of leading a blind man into a well.
So tomorrow we will see the blind man leading others to the well. But meanwhile, please do not be led by any blind man. So we'll pause here for today, the reading. Any comments, any questions, any realizations? Very, 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 how do you say, very practical, crucial tips here, you know. Very, very practical. Don't engage in frivolous talk such as gossip. Associate with devotees. Be patient, enthusiastic. All the whole utsaha, nishchaya, dhairyat. Do favorably engaged. All these things are all coming in these teachings here. That's why it's very important. These verses also in Sanskrit is very important. See, remain diligent in performing your worldly duties. Not that we are devotees and we neglect our material duties or worldly duties. We do that even better than others because we have better focus, we have better memory, we have better health. That's how it's supposed to be. But sometimes devotees, we are a little bit too transcendental. Okay, also this, see, internal and external both comes here. Internally, we see everyone equally. You know, there's no scope for jealousy and envy and anger. And then externally, how we keep that is maintenance, is all these things. Very, very practical. Thank you very much for reading. Yeah.
So yesterday we read that Rishabdev had 100 sons. First of them was Bharat, and then he had 9 sons who became the preachers of Srimad Bhagavatam. I really didn't understand. This is Sukdev Goswami talking to Parikshit Maharaj, right? So that's when Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken, right? So how are they becoming the 9 sons? They became the preachers of Srimad Bhagavatam.
See, Srimad Bhagavatam doesn't mean that, what is Srimad Bhagavatam? What's the definition? It is the glories and teachings about Krishna and his pastimes. That existed since time immemorial. You understand? As a text, it came into existence because Vyasadeva recorded the conversations between Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami. You know what I mean? Like in the name, the Purana, it became as Bhagavatam. But Bhagavatam means, you remember, yesterday you were not there. Yesterday we watched like a little clip of Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu and all. And in that it came that Prahlad Maharaj is already called as Bhagavata. You know, back then you can say Shukadeva Goswami was not even born. How he was called Bhagavata. You know, there's person Bhagavata and book Bhagavata, right? So, but in the context that, you know, Bhagavatam existed since Bhagavan. So which is eternal. There's no beginning, there's no end to the Bhagavatam, as in the principle Bhagavatam. And then there is the Purana Bhagavatam, and then there is a person Bhagavata, right? Does it make sense?
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much.
Preachers of Bhagavatam means those who preach about Bhagavan and his devotees. That's the broader.
Got it, Mataji. Thank you.
Even some of the things, like it is mentioned about the future, it's not yet has happened. Like Chanakya is recently happened, and like that.
Yeah, what does it mean, future? Because certain things are eternal. And therefore, it already exists. Bhagavata and Bhagavatam already exists. It's just that, you know, putting it in a format of the Purana, like that. Yeah. I mean, from those preachers of Bhagavatam, etc., is how it came into existence, Bhagavata Purana. So it's like the chicken or the egg principle. Did the first Bhagavata book come, or did the pastimes occur first? What is first? Okay, please read affirmations, and we'll read 2 affirmations today. Whoever, yes, Rasastali Mataji.
Okay. Affirmation 20. I relish chanting the holy names. What is the importance of this affirmation? We want to always be in the consciousness that chanting is so sweet, so precious, and so special that we are unlimitedly grateful to be blessed with the opportunity to chant. Although chanting becomes most relishable at the stage of ruchi, taste, and beyond, we still want to be in the consciousness now that we are extremely fortunate to be chanting. This consciousness allows us to better appreciate the opportunity to have to chant the holy names daily, and as a consequence, gain greater taste for chanting. You might ask whether we can relish chanting just by focusing on how much we appreciate the only name, or simply by stating that we relish chanting our rounds. Of course, I can't guarantee that's always going to happen, but reminding ourselves that chanting is a special gift definitely helps create a more positive attitude towards japa. In the higher stages of bhakti, we will always relish chanting the holy names. This affirmation is meant to remind us that we, the soul, certainly relish chanting. This is especially helpful to remember when we are not experiencing much of taste during japa. Hare Krishna.
One more, Mataji.
Okay. I happily and enthusiastically welcome the holy names every japa session. The first affirmation is meant to set the proper mood for japa. Sometimes devotees who haven't had the best experiences with japa begin chanting in a negative mood, reasoning that since their japa hasn't been good in general, it will be the same again today. Thus, they begin japa with an expectation of a negative experience, approaching it more as a core than a loving relationship. This first affirmation is meant to create the mood one has when welcoming a very special guest. The holy name is our guest, and we are welcoming him to our home. We make our home and heart attractive because we want to make the time with our guest special, and we want him to feel happy in our home. We thus adjust our consciousness in preparation for the anticipation of a special japa session. To prepare for japa, some devotees will read verses or prayers about the holy name, some will take a moment to reflect on the meaning of the mantra, and some will focus on their intentions for their japa session. This is to place themselves in a positive, welcoming state in relation to the holy name. The main idea of the first affirmation is to get ourselves in the right state of mind for japa. We prepare ourselves before chanting in order to ensure that we chant mindfully, rather than thinking the goal of japa is to somehow or other just finish a prescribed number of rounds. We shift our consciousness into a different attitude. We view chanting as an exciting opportunity to connect with the Lord, something that we enthusiastically look forward to. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Harinam Sankirtan ki jai.
Yeah.